Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I just want to talk about the revelation of the Quran being the final revelation from God Almighty, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I want to just, remind myself also in this talk and you about how special the Quran is and how fortunate we are to have the Quran. And currently in the world today, we find people who view the Quran in ways that, is not always befitting the Quran. Okay? And I'm not talking about people who don't believe in the Quran, I'm talking about people who actually believe in the Quran. You find people who, on the one hand, view the Quran as a message of meaning, of practical meaning, that should be followed. Right. And that's true. Okay. But that's not all it is. And then you find other people who view the Quran as a meditation, a spiritual meditation that is, reciting the Quran brings contentment, to the self, to the heart. A dhikr, they view the Quran as a dhikr, basically, for lack of a better word, right? Dhikrullah, remembrance of Allah. And that's true also, but that's not all it is. And so what I would encourage people to realize is that the Quran is both of these things. Okay? The Quran is the word of Allah revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. May God's peace and blessings be on him and his. And it is there both for a practical purpose, that is, as guidance for those who believe in it. And it is that guidance both requires the practical and real advice offered in the Quran, okay, from an intellectual perspective, meaning the Quran does speak to the mind. True. However, the Quran also speaks to the heart. And the Quran testifies to that many times, that those who, when they hear the Quran being recited, their hearts tremor, wajilat qulubum, their hearts are shake, out of the awe of the majesty, of Allah, out of fear of Allah. And if the Quran was revealed on a mountain, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل, if the Quran was revealed upon a mountain, the mountain would turn into ashes. So there is the Quran, that the words of Allah, that must not only speak to the intellect, meaning you understand what is being recited and you try to apply it in your life, but it's also, the key, to the heart, to fill the heart with light. It is the soothing of the heart, the sounds of the Quran, the recitation of the Quran, moves people to tears. Those people, even people who don't understand it, what's being recited, because it speaks to the heart. And so, of course, lost are those and bankrupt are those and misguided are those who are able to and who recite the Quran, on their tongues, and it doesn't go beyond their throats. And this is what the Quran also testifies to, because the Quran has to speak to the heart. And just to illustrate that point, in the Quran there are letters, we call them cut letters. Those are letters that nobody knows what they mean, but they are there and we have to recite it. Right there in the second chapter it starts with it. Alif Lam Mim. No one knows what it means. but it's there. What does it do? Okay? Well, only your heart can answer that question, okay? When you recite it, right, you should feel that vibrations in your heart, you know, because they are sacred combinations of letters revealed, and they are there to open the heart, you know, for the believers, you know. For example, you know, one of my favorites, you know, كاف ها يا عين صاد. Start of Surah Maryam, chapter of Mary. Beautiful, just letters. The sounds, you know, it should move you. It should open your heart. And so the Quran is you know, the greatest meditation. It is, you know, the key to all things, quite literally, you know, all things. And it is a book of enormous spiritual development, okay? Even for people who don't understand what it means, just the sounds of it alone, okay? The words, because you are uttering the words revealed, you know, the words of God, okay? And so I remind myself and you to realize the enormity of those words upon your tongue, okay? The words of the divine upon the tongue. And finally, you know, the final thing I want to remind you is that at the end of Surah Al-Kahf, which we often read on Friday, you know, Allah does remind us, and He says that, you know, that even if, you know, the oceans were ink to express the words of Allah, and He had to add another ocean to that ocean, you know, to all the oceans, you know, it will not be enough. So imagine that the words of Allah, which are infinite, basically, the Quran is saying it is infinite. There's no limit to the words of Allah, right? It is concisely, you know, expressed and made relevant in 6,000 and some odd words in this book called the Quran, okay? And now it is given to you, and you can utter these words. It is a great, great, great blessing. So, thank you very much. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallam.